Hi, it's Jill Foster here with tips and techniques using Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft products. And today I'll be making a pair of cards featuring the new mixed media stencils. This is a collection of 10 different stencils with lots of different designs. And I'm going to be using a technique which is really fun in order to get a really hand-painted look, as opposed to when you stamp an image and you have the outline and it looks like a outline image that you colored in. With this technique, it looks like you've hand-painted the entire image. So I'm starting with a piece of Canson 140-pound watercolor paper, and I'm just taping this down on my work surface so it doesn't move when I'm using the stencil. And I'm just using some washi tape, and I just tear off a piece of the tape and then I actually kind of dab it on my pants just to get rid of some of the sticky, so it's easy to remove when I'm done. And this is just one of the stencils in the Mixed Media Stencils pack. And I'm going to use the butterfly. And I'm also going to tape that stencil down using some washi tape as well. Now I'm going to use the Art Grip Aquarelle watercolor pencils, and I'm just going to color within that stencil. So I started here with a pink color, and I'll list all the exact colors at the end of the video in the supply list. And I'm adding this on both sides of the butterfly. At first I didn't color the body, but you'll see I do go back and add that color. I want to put this color down where I want the color to be the darkest, where I want the darkest pink to show. Now I'm also taking some yellow and adding that on the outer portion of the wings. And this can be basically just scribble coloring. You're just getting the color down where you want it to be when you add the water to blend. And here you can see I just went back and added that to the body. Now I'm just going to take plain water and a watercolor brush, and I'm going to first add the water into the white open areas, then work my way into the pink area. And you can see that allows the edge of that paint to naturally blend into the water area, so you don't get a hard line. And I'm just cleaning off my brush in the water on the side. Then I'm going into the yellow and blending that as well. And there's a little bit of pink left on my brush and pulling up from that center portion, and that's okay. It creates a really nice orange when the two combine. And then just to continue allowing that to blend, I just add more water. You can push the paint before it dries. So if you want to create some highlights or lighter areas, just take a brush that isn't too wet and then slide that and you can add more highlights. Now here I'm adding a darker color onto a piece of scratch paper, and then I'm basically creating a palette for that. I didn't want to put it directly onto the butterfly because I want to add this color to the butterfly while it's still wet, so it just naturally blends. So I'm just wetting it down on the scratch paper, picking it up, and then patting it along that outer edge of the butterfly. This is a little bit darker red, so I just wanted to grab that, kind of add that towards the center. And you can see where I'm working on the butterfly, it's still wet. So these just naturally blend into each other. You don't get any hard lines. And then I'm also going to do this for the body. And I'm just patting that onto the center. And it really doesn't need to be perfect. Just give the hint of where that darker color of the body would be. And then I'm also adding just a touch of that along the outer edge of the wing, sort of randomly around the edge. This will really add a lot when we remove that stencil and you kind of see the reveal of the design. This technique is really fun because it's quite simple, yet it really gives a stunning effect when you're finished. So I'm going to use my heat tool to dry that, and then when I'm done, I'll take off the stencil. This is my favorite part, and you can see you have this beautiful hand-painted effect. I'll just take off the washi tape. and make sure it's completely dry. There were just a few spots around that outer edge that were still a little bit wet, so I wanted to make sure those were dry. And now I'm just going to take that pink colored on that scratch paper, add some water with my brush, and splatter that onto the background. Now, to create the background in which to layer my butterfly piece, I grabbed some double scoop gelatos that were in the same color tones as the butterfly that I painted, and I'm just rubbing these onto watercolor paper. And I like using the watercolor paper just because it's a little bit stronger. And I'm adding those, I only need to add them around the outer edge because the center will be covered with our butterfly panel. And again, I'll have all the exact colors listed at the end of the video. And what's nice is because all of the products in the Design Memory Craft line are designed to mix and match together, these colors are going to perfectly match the painting that we did on the butterfly, even though they're a completely different media. And you can keep going back and adding different colors in order to darken or lighten areas. I think the more that you layer, the more depth that it gives that background. And then I'm just laying that piece on there just to see if I need to lighten or darken any of the areas. And here I'm taking the chocolate gelatos double scoop and just very lightly adding that around the edge of that piece just to give it a finished look. And then once I was done, I just mounted those pieces to a note card, and I also stamped a penny black sentiment. So this next card is just a few more layers. I wanted to show you how I can use the same technique to achieve an even different look. So I colored those butterflies using the exact same technique as we did with the pink butterfly before, but here I wanted to show you how you can add a different type of background. So once those are dry, I'm taking an Art Grip Aquarelle watercolor pencil, and I'm coloring around the edge of the butterfly. And I'm going to do this on both of the butterflies. And again, this can be like scribble coloring because we're going to do all the blending with the water. So now I'm going to take just plain water, and I'm going to start by applying the water into the white open area and then work my way up to the pigment, to the coloring that I just laid down, allowing it to blend naturally out into the area that has the water. And I'll just continue to do this all the way around the butterflies. And we'll do the same thing down here around the second butterfly. So starting on the white, then working my way into the color, grabbing more water to blend. So if there's anywhere where you get a hard line where you've picked up your brush, just grab more water before it dries and you can blend it out. And then I wanted to give this just even a little bit more dimension. So I'm going to take a darker color on my scratch paper, pick it up with water, and while that yellow area around the butterfly is still wet, I'm just patting and dropping in some of that and then blending it out with water, just to add some additional variation and shading to the background. So you can see with the stencil design, you can get that hand-painted look. There's so many other cute stencils in this pack that I think would be so fun to do this with. There's especially some really neat birds that I think would be beautiful to do some painting with them using this technique and even framing the little miniature pieces. Now you could stop right here after this is dry and really add a sentiment and put this on a card. I decided to keep adding a few more layers. So this is a penny black stamp called Footnotes, which I love for mixed media. I've colored on it using a Stamper's Big Brush pen. This is in the color of warm gray. And I'm randomly coloring onto that stamp, so not completely covering it. And then I'm just stamping it over here on the left-hand side of the panel. I keep kind of moving it over more and more as I move up the panel. Then I also stamped my sentiment, and then I decided I wanted to give that text on the side even more of kind of a distressed look. So I'm just taking some gesso and my fingertip and putting that right over the top of that stamping. And because the Stampers Big Brush pen is India ink, once it's dry, it's completely permanent. So you can add this gesso on top and it doesn't cause any of that text or stamping to run or blend or blur. So it just kind of barely shows through the gesso, and it gives it kind of a whitewashed effect over on that left-hand side. And once I was done, I just simply mounted this to a white piece of cardstock and onto a white note card to finish the look. Thank you so much for watching. For more ideas and inspiration, be sure to visit the Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft blog, and at the end of this video is a complete list of all the supplies used.